Hello, friends, and welcome to Love Talk Network. It's great to be with you today. I'm Kathy Indebrock in studio with the marvelous Marlene McMichael. Coach Carrie Brinkater is not with us today, but in her place, we have two very amazing guests that we're excited to share with you. Men who have stood up for Christ, for prayer in the state of Texas for years now, remaining steadfast and persevering. And we're just excited to hear their stories about what Christ is doing in the state of Texas, and specifically with the National Day of Prayer that is coming up the first Thursday in May. That's 8 weeks away, Marlene. 8 weeks is the National Day of Prayer.
I know the year is just flying by. It's just, it's unbelievable to me, but I am excited about it. I actually was thinking about it this morning as I was getting ready, and I think I need to call my neighborhood ladies together, or maybe even the couples, and say let's just pray for our country
I think that's
on the day of
the
National Day of
first
Prayer.
Thursday in May, which
Yeah,
this year is May the 1st, isn't it?
I think it is.
I
I think
I
it
I
is.
think it is. All right. Well, we're going to be talking about the National Day of Prayer. We're going to be talking about coordinating groups, how to put together a group, what resources do we have to do that, how you can register your group so that others can look you up and know where to go and turn up to your gathering or your event. And we're going to talk specifically about the Governor's State Prayer Breakfast and how Texans for decades have been gathering from north to south, from east to west, gathering together with the governor of the state of Texas and praying for this amazing state and all God is doing here. So, friends, God is on the move. We do have two gentlemen in studio with us, the amazing Jim McGee and Richard Battle. And it is our pleasure to introduce them today. Marlene, do you have a favorite that you want to introduce, or are you even going to draw that straw?
Well, no, I'm going to let you start.
Okay.
But I want to introduce Richard.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, I love introducing Jim McGee because Jim McGee is an absolute favorite of mine. He has been a friend. I would call him a friend because I know if there's ever anything I need, I can punch that number on my cell and he is always going to answer. He has an incredible history with 7 decades of life, knowing Jesus, walking with Jesus. He accepted Jesus at 12 years old, and it is an incredible story. If you go back to our archives at lovetalknetwork.com, type in Jim McGee, that's Jim space MC capital GEE. Go back through our programs and you will find him there and you can hear his testimony. It is one of those miraculous testimonies that you can't hardly believe, but you know it's true because you can see the way that Jesus works in the hearts and the minds of his people. Well, he has been living with Jesus for 7 decades. He is married to his wife, Vicky, for over 50 years. They are both lifetime Texans, love the state of Texas and know it back and forth. I was telling him earlier, he knows all the good fishing spots. So if you ever want to know where to go fish, this is the guy you want to reach out to. He was on full-time staff with Campus Crusade for Christ for 29 years, which is now known as Cru. Across the nation and overseas. He's been on mission trips in 8 different countries, and he has been working with the National Day of Prayer for 27 years, probably 28 years this year.
28,
Okay,
yeah.
28 years. He is the National Day of Prayer Capital Coordinator and State Breakfast Coordinator. He serves on the Texas task force for the National Day of Prayer. He has 2 grown children, 4 beautiful grandchildren who he loves spending time with, especially, as he says, if they are out hunting or fishing. Jim McGee, welcome to Love Talk. We love
Thank
having you with
you.
us.
I will have to introduce you to my brother, who's also a fisherman.
All right.
And he's also invented a little fishing. It's not a lure; it's a jig head, but to me, there's not a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And it's called Rockport Rattler. You need to use it,
Oh, I think
particularly
I've
if you're
heard of that.
crappie fishing, especially. Or
I do that too.
yes,
Crappie. It's like a foreign language to me.
yeah.
Okay.
Good
too.
eating. Mm.
Okay. Well, we also have in studio Richard Battle. And Richard has been a speaker, trainer for over 30 years on topics including volunteerism, leadership, and faith. He's a multi-winning award-winning author, speaker, media personality, and advisor. Um, I'm not real sure what he advises people on, but I want to find out.
It's always going to be good advice filled with wisdom.
Absolutely. He has served on boards for many organizations, including the John Ben Shepherd Public Leadership Foundation, Boy Scouts of America, Muscular Dystrophy Association, and Keep Austin Beautiful. Texas Governor Rick Perry appointed him to the Texas Judicial Council and to the Texas Emerging Technology Fund. He has emceed the state prayer breakfast since 2021. He's a weekly guest on John Rush's Rush to Reason in Denver, Colorado. He is not immune to challenges for sure. So Richard has survived an apartment fire, which I didn't know about that one, that took his neighbor's life, experienced financial ruin in the Texas real estate collapse of the 1980s, divorce, experienced 2 heart procedures, survived cancer, and his most significant loss of all is the death of his only son. And that was written into a book that's quite amazing. People really need to get that book. Both of these men know and love and depend upon Jesus every day. You know, I was coming in this morning, and on the radio, there was a song that said, my life should be a sermon. And I think these 2 men exemplify that very well.
And I am so blessed to have Richard because he is a help that I could not have gotten except for God bringing him to me, and has really blessed my life.
Well, welcome Richard Battle to Love Talk Network again. I think this has got to be both of y'all. This is like 3rd or 4th. I countless times, because now, Jim, I know that you were with us many times when Miss Evelyn, the founder of Love Talk, was on the program with us. And Richard, you have been with us since you've been emceeing the Governor's Prayer Breakfast. Well, we're so excited to talk with you today and find out what you are seeing God do in the state of Texas. And we want to talk specifically about the Governor's State Prayer Breakfast. It always takes place the Monday before the National Day of Prayer. So we know the National Day of Prayer is the first Thursday in May. And so this year, the Governor's Prayer Breakfast, it falls on April the 28th, if I'm correct. Yes, April the 28th. So is this something that anyone can come to? Because I know when I've gone to the Governor's State Prayer Breakfast, initially I thought, oh my gosh, the governor, I need a special invitation. I need like something written to show up in the mail in order for me to attend that, because there's members of Congress, there's the governor himself, the military's there. Can any Texan come to this breakfast?
Absolutely. Anyone can come. They can go to ndpaustin.org. There they can get individual tickets or tables, or can sponsor as well. We would invite anyone who believes in God, believes in Jesus, to come share. Everyone will be prayed for as a group, a participant of different groups we pray for, as well as there will be prayer time at tables for each individual that attends as well. And I guarantee you it will be a spiritual uplifting and a life-changing moment.
And I would say if you've got somebody who's just on the edge, the Governor's Prayer Breakfast is a great place to bring a non-believer as well. You know, it's an amazing event, and I think you'll enjoy it if you come.
Yeah, and it costs basically $50 a person if you just buy one seat or ticket, and you get a good meal and a good prayer time and some encouraging time of music. We have Turin Wells is going to be leading us in worship.
So it's like going to a concert, but you get breakfast.
That's
and
right.
For only $50, you're saying we get to listen to Turin Wells. That's amazing.
And then we get one of the best all-around pastors, Dr. Robert Jeffress at First Baptist. He's going to be sharing with us and really encouraging us. So it will be a very, very good time.
Well, that is amazing. How can you keep the cost so low? I mean, I just went to the National Religious Broadcasters, and Robert Jeffress got up on stage for gosh, just a very short period. But I mean, we paid $200 for that. I mean, it was an incredible convention, a lot of amazing speakers. How can you keep the cost so low, Jim?
I'm not real sure. We've been holding the cost down, and we're looking at if things keep going up, like the price of eggs, we may have to increase a little bit because we're not making a whole bunch on that at all. And the sponsor tables are what pull us through.
I love that. The sponsors, you have your
Sponsors.
sponsors all for this year. Is there room for additional sponsors for
Oh,
the Governor's
yes.
Prayer Breakfast?
We have plenty of room for more sponsors, and we have the $1,000 tables you can get. That's a seat of 10 people, and you'll get your name on your table, and that'll put you probably third or fourth row back. And then we have the $2,500 gold tables, and that will get you on the second row. And then the title sponsors, which we'll take all of those, we can get $5,000 table, and that's 10 people. And that will get you on the front row, and you'll be introduced by Richard as one of the title sponsors, and your name will be on the table. And all of these sponsors will have their names in the program.
You know, go ahead,
Well, I was
Richard.
going to say the sponsors are so critical because
Mhm.
they are stepping up above and beyond what they have to do to buy a ticket to get
Right.
in or buy a table. So they're helping others by
Yes.
doing that and helping us to keep those costs down.
That's
And that
right.
sacrificial gift they're making is so appreciated. And we hope attendees, people that will hear us say those sponsors' names, will patronize them as part of their appreciation for their gift back to us.
You know, I think you really hit on something that is really critical. Just, Love Talk Radio, we've been on the radio for over 40 years, and it's because of our sponsors that we've been able to do that. And I mean, we have seen our sponsors be blessed and get business, but we always tell them, we want you to be sponsoring our program because this is what you believe in. You may get 100 people call you, but if you get 0, we want you to be just as happy with sponsoring this program. And so I think those Christian businesses in Texas who want to be a part of what God is doing, who want to help gather people together in prayer for this state, it's an incredible opportunity to get behind that work, to get behind decades of work and decades of prayers, and be a part of it and step into that space. And I think having their name shared with others, that's like the bonus. But the real gift is being able to really make it possible and encourage others to come together in prayer.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people have already got their tickets and got their seats and their tables, and it's amazing because normally in Texas they wait till the last minute to get one, and we're like, we got to give the hotel, we got to give them a count, and we are waiting and hoping, and is this it, or you know? And this time it seems like everybody is excited, they're getting it early, they're getting involved, and it's exciting.
So do you cap off? Is there a maximum number of people that are able to, because it's at the Kalahari Resort. I mean,
Kalahari
it's
Resort.
just top notch, just so
Mhm.
brilliant, and the Kalahari treats us so well. But is there a maximum? Is there limited space? So if a person wants to come and they wait till the last minute, will they still be able to get a seat, or?
Yeah, probably a seat. Individuals could probably come. And now to get a table, to get a sponsor table at the last minute, probably not.
Okay.
But if someone just all of a sudden their schedule freed up and they wanted to come that morning, yes, they could come. We would be able to have a spot for them.
Okay. Well, friends, I know that there are some of you who own a business, own a company. You're driving down the road and you're thinking, how did I never hear about this before? Well, we're going to go to a break and hear from our sponsors that keep Love Talk on the air. week after week. And when we come back, we're going to tell you how you can get that sponsor table and bring 10 of your customers, your clients, your associates, or those within your company and participate in this gathering of Texans from across the state to pray with the governor at the state governor's breakfast. In just a moment, we'll be back with more Love Talk. Stay with us. And welcome back, friends, to Love Talk Network. I'm Kathy Endebrock in studio with the marvelous Marlene McMichael. We're missing Coach Carrie Brinkater today, but she will be back with us next time. But we do have with us the brilliant Jim McGee and Richard Battle. And for those of you who missed our first segment, Jim has been with the National Day of Prayer for, is it over 28 years now? 28 years. And Richard Battle is the MC for the Governor's State Prayer Breakfast, which we have been talking about. And so, gentlemen, I know that there are people who've been listening to our first segment and they think, okay, I want a seat at this table. I want to come. I want to pray with Texans from all over the state. I want to do this breakfast, or I want a sponsor table so that I can bless 10 of my employees, or I can invite 10 of my clients, or I just have these tickets for someone else to bless them, or even a church. I know a lot of churches, I believe First Baptist Pflugerville, they generally get a table. A lot of different churches get a table and bring their people to this. How can they go out and secure that table and get a hold of you and say, hey, we don't just want a table, we want to be a sponsor of this?
Well, the way they can do that is they can go on the web at ndpaustin.org. And on the main page, there is one seat, silver table, gold table, and a title table. So they can pick what they want. And then once they click on that, it takes them to the checkout. And they can either do a credit card or they can send a check. And it has the information there of where to send the check. And if they need more information, they can get in touch with me. You can go to the website, and up at the top, there's a contact. And if they fill that out, I'll get their email and be able to email them back and answer any questions they have, or they can call me, and my phone number's on the web as well. And I'll be glad to talk with anyone about setting up one of the events themselves. Maybe they live some part of Texas that doesn't have anything going on, and they decide, hey, I'd like to do that. I'll be able to tell them how and where and what they need to do to get it going.
So you're saying for our listeners in Lovekin or McKinney or Georgetown or anywhere throughout the state of Texas, if they say, hey, I can't make the governor's prayer breakfast, but I want to coordinate a gathering in my area, they can reach out to you at ndpaustin.org and you can walk them through that process.
That is right. And if they want to go to see what's happening around their area and want to go to one of their events, or want to know if there is an event anywhere close, they can go to ndpaustin.org events, and they click on more events, and it'll list, I think we have close to 13 in the capital area.
Wow.
And if they go to the national dayofprayer.org, they can go to their city or their zip code, and it will also give all over Texas how many events are being placed. So they can find a place if they live somewhere in West Texas or East Texas or wherever. All they've got to do is go to the national website and put in their zip code, and it'll tell them what's going on.
All right. So what this governor's prayer breakfast is in advance of the National Day of Prayer. So basically in 1 week you can go to this major event where the governor's there and we have great speakers and singers, and then you can create your own prayer group in your own city. And I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is the reason, a lot of the reason for the prayer breakfast that we do early is to give people an idea of what they can do.
Okay.
And what's available. And they can do it on a Thursday. They can do it on a Wednesday if they choose. So it's very open for that week that they can get a real good idea of how they can put on their own event.
And I've heard of some of these prayer events, like going to the police station
Mhm.
and praying outside the police station or the fire station, or different things in your community for for protection.
Yeah,
And I
City
think that's
Hall,
City Hall. Yes,
courthouse,
Well,
that's amazing.
I used to be
parks even.
city coordinator for the city of Georgetown,
Mhm.
Texas. Ann
Oh,
Wilkes
yeah.
is now. She does a brilliant job. And we used to gather out at the football field, out at the high school football field.
Mhm.
And we would, put together a little program of leadership from throughout the city. And we would pray together there. And I love that you mentioned, Jim, the National Day of Prayer.org. That is the national
The
website.
national website.
And you can go there and register your event. You can
Mhm.
find out other events that are in your area. You can get material and learn about
And
the theme.
training.
Yeah, training so much. So there really is a place for everyone. If you are thinking, I'm not an organizer, I'm not a coordinator, I don't want to put something together, but I would like to go and pray for my city, pray for my community, pray for my state, you can go and find an event near you and just show up on the day. I love that.
Yeah, and our whole deal is we want to get people out praying. So as people are driving by and seeing people pray, you don't see people pray in a building if you're driving by. But if you're driving by and it's in a park, it's at a courthouse, it's in the police station, outside, well, it gets people's eyes, and it puts questions in their mind, and the Holy Spirit can really work with people that way.
Yeah.
So, also it's our freedom to be able to do this,
Yeah.
that's part of what the National Day of Prayer really is.
I like that you mentioned that it's our freedom to be able to do this, because it seems like even a few years ago, we've seen in the UK people be arrested for praying on the corner. In the United States, we've had people arrested for praying on the corner. And there was a period of time where we thought we're not going to be able to gather publicly and pray. And we've seen a shift now.
Mhm.
But I think we really need to take advantage of this shift
Yes, we
and
do.
pour out of the walls. So there is a difference between going into your prayer closet at your home and praying and getting out publicly and praying. I mean,
Yes, it encourages people, it legitimizes praying in public. So when people see others pray in public, they're encouraged to have the freedom to do so as well. Versus if they never see that, then they wonder and they will typically pull back and not pray in public because they don't know what kind of response they'll get.
isn't that a simple thing to do that we can encourage our fellow Texans? And even I would say, and who mentioned it earlier, this isn't just for believers.
No, it's not.
You can be
And
praying and invite an unbeliever to come with you. What a more magnificent thing for an unbeliever to see, of people in unity, bowing their heads together and seeking God's throne for their state and for their nation and for their communities and families.
well, I know last year there was a table, and I knew some of the people at it, but one of the participants around the table didn't want to have to pray out loud, and that's perfectly okay too. The idea is that they were exposed to prayer, and you've had people saved at these
Yes, we
prayer
have.
breakfasts. And actually, I think there's a card that you can fill out so people can register that they met the Lord Jesus Christ
Yes.
at the governor's prayer breakfast, and that's got to feel really good for you.
Yeah, that's exciting when that happens. And we just started a couple of years ago, we started having part of our prayer that at the table we would take about 5 minutes, and each table could pray for people at their table. So if you come and you have a burden or something and want somebody to pray for you, you have a table that they can pray for you right there. So everybody gets prayed for at the prayer breakfast. And that's one thing we've found that people have just really enjoyed, because everybody else was up front praying for them. And now they're praying for people individually and getting prayed for.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to be able to be a part of that and do that.
And I know that y'all have designated people that pray for specific items like
Yes.
media or like first
Families.
responders or
Yeah.
families, and so that's very meaningful too. It's quite lovely. Uh,
Yes.
but the other thing that I think is really special is that our governor tends to stay. Oftentimes when you have a politician, they come, they do their speech, they're gone. But he tends to stay for the entire breakfast, and I think that's quite special.
Yeah.
Richard, you were going to
Well,
say
I was
something?
I was going to say something about Governor Abbott.
Well, go right
He
ahead.
not only stays, but one of the things that I appreciate is it's not a political speech. He
Correct.
is a
Yes.
man of faith, and he speaks his heart and shares with people that are there and enjoys the event as a human being, not as a political official. And so often we see elected officials come to an event like this and they put out political messages inside whatever else they say. And so that does not happen. And
No, it
so I
doesn't.
just have
That's
the
good.
utmost respect and appreciation for him because of that.
And Cecilia Abbott is usually there as
Yes.
well. And by the way, this is a news flash for everybody who doesn't know. Their only child was married this past weekend.
Oh,
So, and one of the most
Wow.
beautiful things I've ever seen was Mrs. Abbott put a post on Facebook to her followers, and it was the governor and his daughter dancing. And of course, he's in a wheelchair, so he was I can't do it, but he was rolling around and doing twists and turns in his wheelchair, and it was extremely special.
Yeah, he's very personal and good, and he has not missed a prayer breakfast since he became governor.
I love this that, the point that you make, Richard, is that this is not a political event. And I know that, there are Texans that come and they say, well, I don't like the way Governor Abbott did this, so I'm not going. Well, that's not what we're about. If we are seeking God's throne first, we are seeking the heart of Christ, which is unity among
Mhm.
believers. And it is so special that, as you said, Jim, that the governor has not missed a single breakfast, because I can tell you, in the state of Idaho, which I know well, we have not had our governor come to a single one. So we invite
Wow.
him every year and he will not show up. So anyway, it is an incredible thing. And one of the things I like to do is post on social media. I just had breakfast with the governor and his wife.
I
Anyway, for
like
those
that.
who know me well, they know I'm being cheeky, but anyway, it is a fun thing to do. Well, I would like to talk about the theme of National Day of Prayer, because there is something that sets National Day of Prayer apart from all these other prayer gatherings. We just had Collegiate Day of Prayer, mind blowing. That was wonderful. February 27th. We had the Gather 25, which was a global event that was organized. Austin Awake just happened. That's just happening today on the 15th. Saturday, March the 15th is Austin Awake. So there are these prayer gatherings. We see the Holy Spirit just getting Christians together in these amazing gatherings. What is different about the National Day of Prayer?
well, let me talk for a minute about the theme versus the verse that the theme comes from, because I think this year the whole verse is so much more encouraging and powerful. The theme is pour out to the God of hope and be filled, from Romans 15:13. But the entire verse reads, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the Spirit, or by the power of the Holy Spirit. And to me, I love the word hope. I've used it in some of my work. And so you have the H for hope, the O for optimism, the P for prayer, and the E for encouragement.
I love
And
that.
I believe that that is what we're receiving in our faith. And our faith is based on evidence. It's not a superstition or out of thin air. Our faith is based on the evidence of our forefathers. And so the hope gives us power today and power to go forward tomorrow to be better sons of God, daughters of God, to reflect his glory and to encourage other people in their walk as well.
You know, it's not a hope so hope where you go,
Mm.
well, I hope so. Well, is that going to happen? Well, I hope so. That is not the kind of hope that we're talking about. We are talking about a hope that is an anchor, that is a sure and certain hope. I just love that we can have that kind of hope in our
And
lives.
everybody is wanting that hope.
Yeah.
That's what
Amen.
keeps them going. If you don't have hope, man, you just falter.
Yeah,
And with hope, all things are possible with God.
that's
So
right.
that's exciting.
So
Yes, and
that scripture was 15:13 in the book of Romans, which is the New Testament, just two books right after the four gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Then you'll click over into Acts, and then you go straight into Romans. Am I right?
correct.
I think so. There you
Yes.
go. You can find that, look that up. That's right there for
Richard,
you.
what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to talk about hope again, and one of the differentiations for we of faith is when we experience adversity, which we all will at different times in our life. That hope that we have is what gives us the ability to go on. And I don't know how people without faith in Jesus can go on in adversity because they're totally relying on themselves. And we all get in that place in life where we're in over our heads and we have no control. And if we don't have control, is there anyone that has control? And we believe that Jesus does, and being able to rely on that control that he has and he loves us helps us to navigate that adversity and come out better on the other side to help other people.
Absolutely.
Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing that when you encounter diversity, you can come out better on the other side?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you think, well, if you're beat down and beat up, you don't come out very well on the other side. But it's amazing when you keep your eyes on Jesus, who is the author and perfecter of your faith, you come out better on the other side of diversity. That is of adversity. I think that is only possible through him.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I wanted to ask Jim is because you obviously are talking to other people putting on National Day of Prayer events. What are they telling you? What's happening in other states? Or because you both just talked about the excitement that you see and that the people are registering early, but what are you seeing any trends in prayer or in
Well,
just what God
I
is
think
doing?
this year, I think we're going to see more people showing up and praying than we've seen in a long time all across the United States
Mhm.
because people are they're excited about prayer. They're excited about what God's doing in
Mhm.
the United States right now. And that gives them, like Richard said, that gives them that hope. And on the National Day of Prayer Day, all 50 states will be having events in every county all over. And so that is, I mean, when you think about that many people, I've just got my eyes on Texas and basically the Austin area. And for me to put my head around the whole United States and everybody doing what we're doing here, it's just exciting.
So
Well, I might be a little slow because I never thought about the unity of the entire country praying on the same day. People pray big prayers because when you gather in unity, the power of God is real. And so I'm very excited now that the entire country or every spot in the country of significance
yeah.
is going to have prayer. And so Richard.
Well, I was going to say, regardless of the politics, I'm so grateful that the president opened his cabinet meeting the other day with prayer. I'm grateful in the State of the Union speech that he referred to people who are having questions about their gender, that they're perfect just the way God made
I
them.
know
Oh,
that
that
every
was
The
child is,
example
yeah.
legitimizes us and our prayer. And one of the quotes that I love from Jonathan Edwards, who was a mentor to the founders, if you will, was when God is about to do a mighty new thing, he always sets his people to prayer.
Oh, wow.
So that to me is so important. So we see the praying ahead of God moving.
So
I'm going
so
to have to make that my
You're going to post that
motto.
on your
I'm
refrigerator.
going to do something. Yeah, I
Gonna
need a
frame
copy
that.
of that verse or that
So
quote.
how is it that all 50 states are praying at the same time? What is it that gets us to all pray on the same day? Who coordinated that?
Well, the way it goes is the May 1st is a proclamation made by president and governors. So all 50 states, hopefully, all the governors will make a proclamation to pray on that day. So they're actually proclaiming this is a day of prayer. And the president does the same thing. So we receive a proclamation from President Trump, and we'll be able to have that proclamation from him instructing us that's what he wants us to do. And that's been going on for years. And it started, I think it was back in, what was it?
Eisenhower, the 50s.
Yeah, Eisenhower in
1952, I think.
52.
When I was looking up notes, I think
Yeah.
it said 1952, but then it was in 1982 that they set the date specifically to the
For the
first
first Thursday. So
in
that
May.
is every year they proclaim that day because our forefathers knew the importance, like Richard said, of prayer. And if we're going to continue and make it, it's only going to be if we pray.
Yeah.
And so they wanted at least to have one day set aside for us to gather and pray for our nation, for our state, for our governor. And basically, that's what we're doing. And to think of one day, like you said, for me to get my head around one day and every state in the union is doing this, that just blows my mind.
It is mind blowing. When we had Vicky Porterfield, we were talking with her. I had just been reading through the book of Mark because our church is going through the book of Mark, and the pastor said, "Now I expect you to open that book and you read through the whole book." And so I do what I'm told. Like I've always been a very good student. I do what I told. I'm a rule follower. So I've been reading the book of Mark. And there's this incredible account when Jesus is coming down off the mountain with Peter and James and John, and his disciples are down the way with a group of people, and there's a big ruckus and big arguing, and Jesus is saying, "Well, what are you arguing about?" And there's a man with his son, and his son is demon possessed, and this demon has thrown him in water and thrown him in the fire and tried to destroy him. And the disciples have been trying to cast this demon out, and they haven't been able to. And so this father goes to Jesus and says, if you're able to help me, please help me. And Jesus says, "If." What do you mean, if? Do you not believe? And the father says, "Well, I do believe. Help my unbelief." And so Jesus casts the demon out, and the boy is great. The boy is fine. The boy is healthy. And the disciples asked Jesus, "Why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we do what you just did? We believe all the things that you've told us. Why couldn't we do that?" And Jesus says, "This type can only be driven out through prayer." And I
fasting.
Well, and now the fasting was added later to that because I believe, none of the bridal party would fast while Jesus, the bridegroom, was there. But you're right, and fasting. So what I'm thinking is all this darkness that has been over our nation, what are we going to drive out through prayer? And as Jim, as you say, through fasting, this National Day of Prayer. I'm just so excited for what the Holy Spirit wants to accomplish.
Well, one of the things I think that's interesting, of course, our history back to before the founding of the country had days of prayers, the Pilgrims and others. And so we have that predicate. Our government was founded by leaders who believed, and having "In God We Trust" on the money, and opening Congress with prayer and things like that. But in our popular culture, it's been discouraged. And so we have to stand up against that and witness against that, because they have kind of pushed us aside for several years. And so I think by having a single day like that, one of the things it does is it humbles us, because it focuses on God versus self. And our popular culture always wants us to focus on self instead of God.
So true. Focusing on God and not self. We were talking about that. Guys, there's a word called submission that girls are always given, but hey, when it comes to National Day of Prayer, men, you get to learn that word as
Yes.
well.
Well, when we got to go to break, but when we get back, Richard, I want you to talk some more about the concept of Americans and the just the history behind the founding. I mean, I know that um, the founding fathers didn't agree on everything, but when they had a disagreement and they were at a stalemate, they went to the church and they prayed. Amazing, huh? Then they came back and voted. The only thing they couldn't agree on was slavery, and we're the only country in the world that's ever gone to civil war over slavery. So that's a huge heritage, and I want people to know it as we get back from break. And until then.
All right, stay with us, friends. We'll be right back with you with more Love Talk Network. Welcome back, friends, to Love Talk Network. I'm Kathy Endebrock in studio with the marvelous Marlene McMichael and our very good friends, Jim McGee and Richard Battle. We've been talking all about the National Day of Prayer and the importance of prayer in this nation. And when we went out in the last segment, we had spoken briefly about the history of prayer in this nation. And Marlene, you threw an interesting question to Richard about Americans versus Americans. And okay, you're going to have to help me understand that.
Well, I think Richard's the best one to help you understand that, because that's the title of several of his books. And the whole theme of those books is that Americans have a can-do spirit. And a lot of that is based on they have a prayer background. So,
Well,
Richard, I'm going to throw it to you.
absolutely. And relying on God's provision
Right.
for them while they pursue their very best life. And one of the fascinating things about the founding period, as I studied it, was how many people came together from different faiths, beliefs, lifestyles, and they subjugated their own personal interest until they got the Declaration done. They got the War of Independence won, and they got the Constitution approved. And then all of a sudden, it was like Providence took them back to their own individual desires again. And it was like there was an abeyance during those periods that helped them. And so a couple of examples of that, I think, that are important. John Witherspoon was the first pastor elected to Congress. And his quote was, "The people in general ought to have regard to the moral character of those whom they invest with authority, either in the legislative, executive, or judicial branches." And we've seen that absent the last few years. And
Yes.
I think we'll see that returning now. And that's important for our survival. John Adams, second president, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." And our sadness lately, all we hear about is democracy. We're not a democracy, we're a republic. And a republic is different because it protects minority views and protects our faith if a majority wants to take it away from us. Aristotle said 2,000 years ago, republics decline into democracies, democracies degenerate into despotism. So we need our leaders to
Right.
protect our republic so that we will have the freedom to pray and gather like we do at this event.
It's
Amen.
interesting, I think, with the educational breakdown that somehow students are not being taught the principles of the republic, of the different branches, and how every voice has a voice, but it's not the majority rule, because once the majority rules, then the minorities have no voice. And so the republic protects the voices of the minority. I love that. It's such an important history. I want to talk a little bit about, because I know we're in our last segment, we're going to run out of time. I want to talk about, the keynote speaker that each year the Texas task force for the National Day of Prayer is very specific about selecting a keynote speaker for that state prayer breakfast that we've been talking about. And in the past, we've had Ann Graham Lotz. We have had Nick Vujicic. We have had, last year was Abby Johnson. And I have had the privilege of being able to help hostess some of those keynote speakers. And so I've gotten to witness their impact on the crowd as the people from the breakfast come after and talk with them. And I'll never forget last year, a gal, there was a long line of people wanting to see Abby Johnson, as you would if you had the opportunity. She had spoken at the breakfast. She had shared the message that the Lord had given her. And then she came to, after the breakfast, to meet with everyone. And this gal came up to her and she said, you know, Abby, when I came to this breakfast, I was pro-choice because I believed the lies that every woman got to do what she wanted to do and that it wasn't harming her in any way. And she said, I don't know what happened. I just didn't value that life. And she goes, I see now. I just kept remembering. She said, I see now. I see now. I am 100% pro-life. I will never go back to pro-choice.
Wow.
I see now. And I thought, that is amazing, you know, because those are the words of Christ. He says, you know, if they have ears, let them hear. If they have eyes, let them see. And I literally think, wow, this woman who was blind to the lies now sees the truth. And that was accomplished with the keynote speaker that you brought. And so I'm excited about Dr. Robert Jeffress. And so tell me a little bit about him and what makes him so special.
Well, I think the one thing is just his history of being at First Baptist Dallas and all that he has gone through. He has written, 34 books, I think, may have another one that just came out. And so he's an author. He's been on Fox News. He's he's out there. And he always teaches the truth. And he's one of the men, I think, one of the great men that we have as pastors nowadays that are out there that are still teaching the truth. And so I think it's going to be very exciting for people to come. And I think there are going to be some people that God's going to speak to them, just like that gal got spoken to. And hopefully there'll be some people that have tables that will invite friends that need exactly what he has to bless them with.
I was watching an interview of Dr. Jeffress, and he said it was when his church was just in flames, burning down, and he had tears in his eyes. And the reporter asked him, you know, what's going to happen to your church now? You have no more church. There's no more church. And he said, oh no, the church is fine. The building has burnt down, but the church is not the building. The church will be fine. God will lead us through this. And I thought, yes, that is exactly right. This guy's got it. And I love to see these pastors that are persevering and finishing so well. You know, we see some pastors that have stumbled, that have fallen, and boy, the enemy has, you know, whether they haven't guarded their heart or they haven't guarded their relationship with Christ, and the enemy has really established a foothold, and God has been exposing that and removing them from service. And I think that can get us as believers so downcast. And yet I think it's God opening our eyes of the importance of guarding our lives and not giving the enemy a foothold. And then he holds up these pastors like Dr. Jeffress, who we can see is continuing to persevere and to finish well and to build up the church. And as you said, to speak truth. I think that's what we're so desperate for right now is the truth.
Well, and so available too.
So, and when he said out there, it didn't mean like far out crazy out there. It meant he was putting him out there from a courageous standpoint.
Yes.
But the comment about the church, I think, is such a great metaphor because the world only focuses on today and materialism. And if you're not succeeding according to those rules, they want to brand you a failure. Well, we that are believers believe we sow seeds and we leave the fruit to God and the timing to God later. And God takes out of chaos and produces order. The world takes out of order and produces chaos. And that to me is so important. We're going to be gathering, and it will empower people to receive that order and encouragement and uplifting spirits so they go forward out of the breakfast and out of the National Day of Prayer event and have a much better year than they might otherwise.
Amen.
That is so true. Well, guys, we have like 3 minutes. I want to just redirect all of our listeners and our viewers to that ndpaustin.org website. You can go there. You can get a prayer guide to download, and that will give you not only the names of different persons, leaders in authority. The Bible tells us to pray for those who are in authority. That will list names of individuals in our government that God has placed over us for you to pray for. It will also give the 7 areas of prayer that the National Day of Prayer focuses on, with guides to pray through those different areas. And so if you go to that ndpaustin.org, go to resources, and you will see that prayer download. Also, again, if you want a table of 10, if you want to sponsor, or if you want that individual seat, you can go to ndpaustin.org and you can purchase your seat or your table there.
And it is an early morning breakfast. We start at 6:30 on the dot.
Yes.
And if you sit down, you get served and start eating. So most people are showing up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That we will be there at 6 o'clock. And I will say, friends, if anyone wants to come and meet us, we would love to hug your neck and get to know you and hear your story. And we will be at a table right outside the breakfast before we go in and join everyone at the breakfast. We're really looking forward to that. So, all right. Well, gentlemen,
Yes.
any final words? We have about a minute left. Any words of encouragement for those who are listening today?
Well, I would think anyone who has listened to this program, who has even the thought of interest, get on ndpaustin.org today, get a ticket, get a table, show up. You will not regret it. The only time you're going to regret it is if you don't do it.
Yes.
So please do that. We'd love to see you as well and meet you and hear your story of how you enjoy the event also.
Friends, let us know you're coming. You can find us, Love Talk, all one word, Love Talk Network, on Instagram. You can go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Listen to us on radio. You can email us at letstalk@lovetalknetwork.com. Let us know that you're coming. We would love to set aside some time to meet you, to hear your story, to hear about what God is doing in your life. Well, I'm Kathy Endebrock, and for our marvelous Marlene McMichael, our very good friends, Richard Battle and Jim McGee. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
And Richard will also be out front with a table too.
Yes,
That's
he
right.
will.
So come meet him.
Ask all your questions. Come meet us. We'd love to meet you, and we'll look forward to being with you again next time here on Love Talk Network. God bless.